Hey everyone, I'm here to help you relax and drift off tonight. If you enjoy using these videos to fall asleep, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more calming content. Share where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I'd love to know. Now settle into a cozy spot, take a deep breath, and let's start unwinding together. Edric Ashenford, the village blacksmith's son, had always found Nightshade Wood's edge both alluring and ominous. Every afternoon he quelled his boredom by sparring with wooden swords among the sentinel oaks. But as night fell, he hurried home, aware that the forest's living shadows watched with intent. One evening, under a bronze sunset, Edric's younger brother Tom dashed into his path, face pale and frantic. "Edric, Bluebell's missing. She ran into the woods on fireflies." Bluebell, their spunky terrier mix, had chased her favorite moth into the trees and never returned. Panic gripped Edric's chest. He felt the lure of the forest edge beckoning Tom's panicked cries and Bluebell's lost yelp. Without thought, he seized a torch, strapped on his leather bracers, and plunged into the gathering dusk. The forest swallowed them. Even their torchlight seemed dim among the towering trunks. As they pressed deeper, the air grew colder, as though the sun's warmth had been leached away. Branches whispered in a tongue of rustling leaves, and Tom's steps quickened. "Edric, I don't like this," Tom stammered. Edric gripped his brother's shoulder. "We'll find her. Just stick close." They stopped at a moss-covered clearing, where dozens of flickering lights hovered like tiny lanterns, fireflies or perhaps forest will-o'-the-wisps. Beyond them lay the true darkness, where the shadows under the trees seemed to twist and lengthen, reaching for the brothers' ankles. Suddenly, a muffled whine, "Bluebell." Edric rushed forward. The fireflies sprang away, forming a barrier, and when their light dimmed, he saw Bluebell, but only half. Her hind legs melted into darkness, her fur absorbed into a shifting blackness. She barked, eyes luminous, then darted away, leaving only the echo of her cry in a smear of inky shadow. Tom screamed. The wind answered with a host of whispers. Edric felt something brush his shin, slender, insubstantial, yet all too real. "We have to go back," Tom whimpered. But Edric shook his head, resolve hardening. "I'm taking Bluebell back." Together they chased through the narrowing paths deeper where shadows never slept. By dawn, Edric emerged alone, torch ground to embers, shirt smeared with leaf mold. Tom and Bluebell were gone. Blackmore's watch sounded the alarm. As the villagers gathered, murmuring prayers and glances of dread, the mayor, Mabel Hawthorne, counseled calm. "We must seek counsel of the old ones," she declared. "Tonight, we convene the council of search." At twilight's end, farmers, woodsmen, and scholars assembled in the council hall. Among them was Elder Maris, keeper of folk tales, Sister Lena, healer versed in dream magics, and Corbin Alder, once a huntsman who dared the forest's edge by day. "Nightshade Wood is restless," Corbin spoke, voice gruff. "Those shadows, they thirst for more than moonlight. They hunger to bind living soul. Your Tom and dog gone to that black tide. We must venture in with purpose." Maris stepped forward. "Legend tells of 3 keys to placate the shadows. A light of memory, to remind them of rest, a song of lament, to honor their sorrow, and a shield of dawn, to break the spell at sunrise. Gather these, and you may free what's lost." A small company formed around Edric, Sister Lena, Corbin, Maris, and a weary torchbearer named Rolf. Their first quest, find the light of memory, a lantern fueled by remembrance hidden in the abandoned chapel of St. Ember. They reached the moss-covered ruin by a silvered stream, its altar carved with weeping angel figures. Sister Lena, chanting lullabies from the Book of Lost Names, lit the ancient lantern. At once, flickers of memory emerged. Images of the village's past, children's laughter in meadows, the forging of new swords, Bluebell pup chasing her first rabbit. The lantern's glow strengthened with each shared memory, illuminating the chapel. In the darkness, a host of shadows pressed against the chapel's broken door. Edric held up the lantern. The shadows recoiled, writhing in ghostly pain as memories quieted their hunger. At the threshold, a black mist of dog shape paused, eyes bright. Sister Lena spoke softly. Bluebell remembers home. The mist solidified into the terrier pup, shaking off the shadows. She bounded to Edric's arms, bark bursting the night. With the key of memory in hand, the company pressed on, torch and lantern guiding their steps. The second key lay in the depths of the ashen marsh, a song of lament carved into a bone flute. The marsh was a labyrinth of stifling reeds and putrid pools, where lost travelers' echoes mingled with the croak of unseen amphibians. Corbin led the way. Keep the lantern high, keep your voice low, he warned. They found the flute atop a pedestal of blackened bones beneath a twisted willow. Maris lifted it, notes rising as she blew. Haunting melodies of sorrow and release. Let tears flow like rivers wide. To wash the shadow from each side, the marsh sighed in response. Shadows fled, their wails melting into the flute's final note. From the reeds came a faint voice, Tom's calling for his brother. Bluebell barked, leading the company to a sunken hut. Inside they found Tom, huddled but alive, held in a cocoon of black mist that melted under the flute's lament. Reunited, the brothers embraced as Sister Lena's tears glowed in the lantern's light. The song of lament had eased the shadow's sorrow. Now only the final key remained. At the breach of night's heart, they marched to the forest's true center, the Heartwood clearing, where a massive oak called the Sleeper's Embrace stood sentinel. Its gnarled roots formed a natural amphitheater. There, the remaining shadow hosts swirled, feeding on the land's restless grief. Corbin brandished the Shield of Dawn, a disk of polished silver etched with sunburst runes, forged by the village's smith in secret. As the first hint of dawn tinted the horizon, the company positioned themselves. Edric clutching the shield, Maris and Corbin preparing each to hold an edge, Sister Lena poised with the bone flute, and Rolf hoisting the memory lantern high. The shadows advanced, a tide of black shapes, howling with silent despair. Edric lifted the shield. As the first sunbeam crested the trees, light ignited the runes, sending a wave of dawn's warmth across the clearing. The surf of shadows recoiled, melting into inky pools that steamed and hissed. Maris struck the oak's trunk. The Sleeper's Embrace shivered, its bark splitting as sunlight poured in. Sister Lena lifted the flute once more. Lament transformed into a hymn of hope. Rise with dawn, washed by light, shadows break at morning's sight. The woods exhaled, every black shape dissolved into motes of gold, drifting upward in the brightening sky. The forest's hush turned to song. Birds chattered, leaves rustled cheerfully, and the creek laughed as it tumbled over mossy stones. As dawn broke fully, the company emerged from Nightshade Wood changed. Tom, once cowering in fear, strode with new confidence. Bluebell yipped at the retreating shadows. Corbin sheathed his sword, his weathered face soft with relief. Sister Lena blessed the forest with tears of gratitude, and Maris carefully reinterred the bone flute beneath a bed of wildflowers. In the clearing's center, Edric placed the Shield of Dawn at the oak's base and set the memory lantern upon the decaying stump. May Nightshade sleep, he whispered, and may its shadows rest. The villagers of Blackmore, who had watched from the ridge, cheered at their return. Edric lifted Tom onto his shoulders, calling out, "The forest sleeps at last!" Children ran toward the clearing, scattering daisies and laughter in their wake. Nightshade Wood remained, moss and shadow softened by dawn's embrace. Though its darkness ever lay waiting for the next dusk, the restless hunger of its shadows had been sated. For now, years passed. Nightshade Wood stood as guardian to Blackmore Village, its edges tamed by the shield of dawn and the lantern's memory flame. Ariane, once a scribe's apprentice, married Corbin's son, and their laughter bloomed like spring flowers in the forest's edge. Tom grew to be a woodsman of keen sight, ensuring no shadow went unseen. Each evening, before the moon's rise, the village elders performed a simple rite, lighting the memory lantern at the cottage door and placing the shield of dawn upon the chapel's altar. They spoke a vow: as long as dawn follows night and light conquers endless night, we guard this wood with watchful sight, that sleep may come to shadow's plight. And so the forest that once devoured souls found peace in dawn's gentle grace, its shadows finally lulled by remembrance, lament, and the breaking of day, never to wake hungry again. Ariane Talloway was an apprentice scribe, ink-stained fingers and dusty scrolls her constant companions when she first heard of the door. She served in the musty halls of Netherhollow's ancient archive, cataloging tomes so brittle few dared touch them. One evening, as she closed a volume on the lost city of Varan, she found tucked between its pages a scrap of parchment. To see the impossible, seek the seam of silver, stand where the old hearth once glowed at midnight's edge. Her master dismissed it as a prank, but Ariane's curiosity soared. She waited until the village clock struck 12, then slipped from the archive to the abandoned cottage at the moor's fringe. A single lantern guided her steps across dew-wet grasses. Inside the cottage, the hearth lay cold, its bricks blackened by old fires. Ariane circled the room until her lantern's glow caught the faint sheen of silver-veined runes in the west wall. Heart pounding, she reached out, and the door sighed open, revealing darkness beyond, deeper than midnight sky. With trembling courage, Ariane stepped through. Beyond the door lay a city carved from pale marble that gleamed in the light of 3 moons. Its streets were silent, deserted. Every archway and spire stood frozen in time. Ariane wandered along cobblestones etched with constellations, her lantern pale against the lunar glow. Statues of ancient heroes lined the promenade, their stone eyes downcast. She approached a towering obelisk inscribed with runes matching those on the door. As she traced them, a low hum resonated through the marble. The statues blinked, 2 modern eyes opening where stone had seemed to hold them fast. A chorus of hollow voices echoed in her mind. Awakened at last, remember our name. Ariane staggered back as the statues stepped down from their pedestals, their memories flooding into the city's stillness. She realized Varan was not abandoned, but waiting, its inhabitants ensnared in a dream of stone until a traveler released them. With her scribe's heart, she began to record every detail, determined to preserve this world's history before it slipped away again. After days in Varun, Ariane discovered a second door, hidden beneath the city's crypt. It opened onto a forest of silver-barked trees whose leaves shimmered like broken mirrors. The air was alive with soft whispers, memories carried on the wind, the laughter of summer festivals, the names of lost children, the lullabies of ancient mothers. Each gust of wind delivered a fragment of a past that no living soul had borne witness to for centuries. Ariane journeyed deeper, her path lit by luminescent fungi. She followed a clearing where a single tree stood, the memory oak. Carved into its trunk were thousands of names, each glowing faintly. Placing her hand on the bark, she heard her own name whispered among them, a ripple of fate binding her to this world. The oak offered her a choice, to have her memories recorded and preserved here, or to leave and let the forest's echoes fade into silence once more. She hesitated, feeling the weight of her own past, the faces she had lost, the dreams she had abandoned. With a steady breath, She whispered her name. The oak's glow pulsed, and a searing warmth filled her heart. She knew she must leave these memories behind, not captive to the woods, but set free in her mind. Ariane found a third door carved into a moss-covered boulder. Beyond it lay Zephyria, a realm of crystalline towers and soaring bridges of translucent obsidian. But all was silent. The wind had stilled, birds no longer sang, and the waters of the floating canals ran dry. Zephyrians, tall, graceful beings of light and glass, stood frozen upon every balcony, hands outstretched in eternal greeting. At the center of the grand plaza stood the pillar of breath, its heart hollowed to a perfect sphere. Oriane climbed the spiral of glass brick steps and placed her palm inside the pillar's heart. Instantly, a gale of wind swept through the city, reviving sails on the windships and rippling the mirrored surfaces. The Zephyrians stirred, memories flooding back, voyages among the storm clouds, festivals beneath the moonlit vortex, songs lost in the hush of time. They wept with relief. Ariane recorded their stories, marveling at the interchange of magic and loss. But as the wind calmed, the door behind her hummed, reminding her of the world still waiting beyond forgotten thresholds. The next door lay hidden behind a waterfall of mercury that glittered in perpetual dusk. Ariane passed through and found herself in a vast cavern, lined with stalactites dripping molten silver. Here the echoes were darker, promises broken, oaths betrayed, loves torn asunder. Phantasms drifted through the air, shadows of hearts once entwined, now separated by regret. Ariane's lantern trembled. To traverse the cavern, she had to confront her own secret, the promise she had once made to her ailing mother, to return home each day, a pledge broken by her obsessive quest. With a shudder of remorse, she spoke her promise aloud, acknowledging her own failings. The phantasms paused, then drifted into the ether, leaving the cavern still. The door beyond opened, welcoming her onward. At last, Ariane stood before a final door, its surface a shifting reflection of all the realms she had visited. Beyond lay an immense chamber filled with converging corridors lined with doors. Each portal shimmered with the essence of a forgotten world. Fields of fireflies, palaces of glass, oceans of stars. They called to her in silent invitation. But at the chamber's heart stood a pedestal bearing the original black leather book she had found in Marlowe's antiquarian. Its pages were blank, eager for the stories she had witnessed. Ariane placed her hand on the book's surface, and every memory she had gathered poured into its pages. Verone's marble streets, the forest's lullabies, Zephyria's wind songs, the cavern's remorse. The book's ink glowed with silver light as the stories took root. Ariane realized the door's true magic. It did not merely preserve forgotten worlds, it entrusted them to those brave enough to remember. By writing their tales, she wove them into the fabric of her own world, ensuring they would live anew. As the first light of dawn crept through the arching ceiling of the convergence chamber, an impossible sky of twilight beyond, Ariane closed the book. Every door around her shimmered briefly, then gently faded into the walls. She found herself once more in Marlowe's back room. The black leather book open on the oak table. The world outside was waking. Birdsong filtered through the shutters. The distant toll of the town bell echoed on the air. Clutching the book to her chest, Ariane felt the weight of countless lives and realms in her arms, and the lightness of knowing she had set them free. She locked the ancient tome in Marlowe's vault alongside the scroll that had first led her here, and vowed to protect its secret. Years later, Ariane Finch became a revered scholar of hidden realms. Her multi-volume work, Chi echoes beyond the threshold, treasured by libraries and dreamers alike. She never revealed how she obtained her knowledge, only that it came from doors unseen and worlds lost to time. In her twilight years, she returned to the archway in Mistvale. Standing before the cottage on the moor, she placed her worn quill by the hearth and whispered a final thank you to the door that led her beyond the confines of reality. As she crossed the threshold one last time, she carried with her a lifetime of memories and the promise that no world, no story would ever truly fade. Endless worlds await those who dare to turn the latch of wonder. Aldrich Vale stood at the edge of High Fall's crumbling docks, lantern in hand, as the last merchant ship of dusk creaked away. The sky above smoldered with violet embers, and in the distance, the black sea reflected the first pinpricks of starlight. Whispers had reached him in taverns and temple courtyards, tales of a vessel that would rise from the horizon when the two moons aligned, offering passage to those who dared to sail the night sea. Aldrich, once a scholar of mundane maps and coastal charts, now felt his compass heart point irresistibly toward that promise. For years he had compiled every scrap of lore, half-buried scrolls in desert ruins, mariners' journals stained with brine, and the trembling confessions of dreamers who had been touched by the ship's call. As the first silver moon crowned the sky, Aldrich raised his lantern high and whispered, "Show me the way." He did not wait long. At the edge of sight, just beyond the last swell of the ocean, a column of ethereal light appeared, no larger than a candle flame at first, then swelling into a radiant bow that cleaved the darkness. The night sea rippled beneath a phantom wake as the starward voyager emerged, her sails unfurling like wings of spun starlight. Her hull gleamed with nebular hues, deep purples, cerulean blues, and flecks of argent like a distant spiral galaxy. Aldrich's breath caught as the ship glided alongside the dock, though no plank lowered. A voice, neither male nor female, drifted across the luminous air. "All who seek the voyage, step forth. Leave your world behind and embrace the path of starlit waters." With trembling determination, Aldrich stepped onto the deck and found the realm of mortal concern slip away beneath his boots. Inside the main cabin, Aldrich met the crew, an assembly of souls plucked from every shore and age. Captain Lysara Ale, whose eyes held the calm of distant suns, and whose laugh was like meteors streaking through night. Once a sky sailor who charted aerial currents, she now captained the night sea. Quartermaster Torin Grimm, a veteran of pirate galleons, his arms etched with star maps tattooed in silver ink. He traded cutthroat missions for charting constellations. Navigator Eliora Mir, a forlorn princess who fled an empire's throne. She read the night sea's currents as once she read court intrigue. Starlit harpist Nyx, whose music could calm cosmic storms, though her own heart trembled with unspoken centuries. Each welcomed Aldrich with solemn respect. "The voyage demands more than skill," Lysara told him. "It demands the courage to face the darkness between the stars and within your own soul." That evening, Aldrich took his place at the helm while the starward voyager sailed deeper into the firmament. Below, the ocean vanished into velvet black. Above, constellations wove new patterns as the ship passed. He stood beneath the great lantern, a globe of living starlight, and breathed in the night's hush. In its stillness, the voice of the night sea whispered promises. Here, time slumbers, pain loosens its hold. Here, dreams unfurl on currents of gold. Here, your heart may find what it seeks, lost hopes reborn in silent mystique. Aldrich's pulse quickened as he gazed out over the infinite expanse. Sleep claimed him gently, and in his dreams he walked among constellations, trading words with Orion, catching comets in his hands and mapping his own destiny among the stars. On the third night, a sudden tumult rent the air. Stars flickered violently as the night sea roiled with unseen tempests. Torin shouted for lines to be cast off. Nyx's harp sounded an urgent chord. Waves of cosmic energy threatened to capsize the vessel. From the crow's nest, Torin bellowed, "Brace for the starlight squall. Harden your souls. Lysara stood at the helm, her silhouette framed by a corona of starlight. With calm authority, she guided the ship into the eye of the storm. Aldrich gripped the wheel, feeling the pulse of the night sea resonate in his bones. Lightning like silver threads scribed across the void. Thunder echoed as though Mars himself rumbled. But the crew, united by purpose, held fast. Nyx's harp voice rang out, weaving an ancient lullaby of celestial harmony. The storm's fury abated, the cosmic winds stilled, and the night sea lay once more like polished glass beneath the moon's embrace. As the calm settled, Illyra consulted her charts. "There is an isle ahead," she said. "It lies outside all known realms, a place where forgotten souls wander." Under a sky spangled with nebulae, the starward voyager approached a small world of black stone, circling a crater lake that shimmered with ghostly phosphorescence. The crew lowered a skiff, and Aldrich joined them in landing. On the shore, the air was chill with unspoken grief. Wisps of pale light drifted through the air, echoes of souls who had perished without remembrance. Among them, Aldrich glimpsed faces he had once loved and forgotten. A childhood friend, a lost love, a teacher who had believed in him. Tears pricked his eyes as he realized the cost of memory lost. Captain Lysara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Here, we offer remembrance. Speak their names, tell their stories, and set them free." By lantern light, the crew spoke names into the night. "Calvin, my dear friend. Isabel, your laughter lingers. Master Bram, your wisdom guides me still." With each name, the mist coalesced, then ascended in a burst of silver light. Souls granted passage to the stars. When the last echo faded, the isle fell silent, and the night sea awaited their return. Back aboard the starward voyager, the crew prepared for the next leg of their journey. The path of promises, a ribbon of neon currents said to lead to the realm of tomorrow's dreams. Aldrich studied Illyra's charts. They spanned 100 light years across nothingness, visible only under precise stellar alignments. Should they succeed, the path would carry them to a place where lost hopes could be reborn in waking life. Night after night, the ship glided beneath constellations unnameable, and Aldrich chronicled each discovery in his journal. He found that the night sea responded to intention. The crew's unified hopes quieted cosmic turbulence, while doubt summoned new squalls. And with each passing day, Aldrich felt his own heart healed by the voyages they undertook. His sister's fate, his own regrets, dreams once abandoned to the shores of time. Finally, they reached the path of promises, a great eddy of turquoise currents swirling beneath the twin moons Alden and Valora. Captain Lysara guided the starward voyager into the swirl. Time felt elastic. Minutes stretched into hours, and dawn arrived twice as they sailed beneath the twin lanterns. At the core of the path lay the mirror of tomorrow, a crystalline arch rising from the currents, its surface rippling like water. Beneath its arch, each crew member glimpsed visions of the future. Aldrich saw himself sharing the voyage's lessons with new generations, a teacher of the night sea. Anya glimpsed her village uplifted by the knowledge of remembrance. Torin saw a world free of grudges, bound by understanding. Nyx beheld her music echoing across star systems, healing cosmic wounds. Lysara's gaze held a quiet hope of home and of voyages yet uncharted. Standing together, they touched the mirror's surface. A surge of radiant light coursed through them, weaving their futures into the night sea's eternal tapestry. When the starward voyager emerged from the path of promises, Ember Falls Harbor lay beneath a sunrise touched by nebular hues. The townsfolk gathered on the piers, eyes skyward, as the ship descended from the heavens. Dawn's light revealed the vessel's sails shimmering with starlight. As the crew disembarked, each carried a token from the voyage. Aldrich's maps studded with star coordinates, Anya's polished keepsakes of remembrance, Torin's silver ink constellations. Nyx's harp now etched with cosmic runes. They found Emberfall transformed, a city awakened to the magic of the night sea. In the harbor square, a monument rose, a brass compass fixed to granite, its needle ever spinning toward the stars, a tribute to the voyage that bridged sky and soul. Years later, the starward voyager still sailed beneath the stars, her lantern flaring like a distant galaxy. Captain Lacera's name was etched in every mariner's tale. Aldrich's lectures on celestial cartography filled academies. The Order of Remembered Souls tended the Isle of Lost Souls, and the Festival of Two Moons celebrated the Path of Promises. Yet the voyage never truly ended. On moonless nights, those who yearned for distant shores looked skyward, hoping to glimpse her sails against the night sea. For as long as hearts sought wonder beyond the horizon, the starward voyager would answer the call, guiding the lost, rekindling dreams, and sailing forever beneath the boundless stars. Ava Finch, a doctoral candidate in comparative literature, had spent her summer cataloging loans at Marlowe's. She delighted in the musty scent of age paper and the quiet thrill of discovering marginalia from long-gone readers. One rainy afternoon, while hunting for a 17th century sermon, she stumbled upon the black leather book. Curiosity seized her. No catalog entry, no record of purchase, as if the book had simply appeared. That evening, alone in the shop's reading room, Ava laid the book on the worn oak table. Its cover was cool, the leather smooth as a whisper. She opened to the first page. The ink trembled in elaborate script. Reader, step within these pages and know the world I dared not leave. Turn the leaf and welcome to your own story. She shivered. Rational mind warred with intrigue. Yet before she could hesitate, her fingers brushed the words. A single sentence scrawled beneath, "Do not fear. Once you begin, you will know no other path." And so she read on. Ava's eyes traced the opening paragraph. It was a twilight that clung to the throat of the valley, where shadows danced like memories long since drowned. Her heartbeat slowed, her vision tunneled. The edge of the table blurred. She blinked and found herself standing in a mist-shrouded valley at dusk, her hands still clutching the book's pages. The reading lamp behind her had vanished. Only a blood-red sun hung low on the horizon. Ava's breath fogged in the chill air. She gasped, pressing a hand to her mouth. Behind her, the table, in Marlowe's reading room, was gone. The valley lay silent. Mist curled around jagged rocks and skeletal trees. Ava opened the book again. The paragraph continued. "Step lightly, reader, for the world within awaits your next command. Speak the tale, and it shall obey." Trembling, Ava spoke aloud. I want to return home." The words sounded feeble in the hush. Nothing happened. She turned another page. "To leave, one must finish the story. But this story is yours to write." Ava's mind raced. The book had become a portal. Only by completing its narrative could she escape. And so she walked into the mist, searching for the next passage. After hours of wandering, Ava came upon a cluster of moss-covered cottages. Smoke curled from chimneys. On the door of the first, she read carved letters. "Welcome to Halcyon's Edge, where lives pause in hope and fear." She opened the door to find empty rooms, dust motes dancing in the final light. On a table lay a leather-strapped journal, the book's next chapter. Opening it, she read, "You stand at Halcyon's edge, where every soul lingers between the world that was and the dreams deferred. Here, stories unravel unless someone gives them voice." From the hearth came a sudden rustle. Ava turned to see ghostly figures stepping from the shadows. A mother clutching a locket, a soldier in tattered uniform, a boy holding a broken toy. Their lips moved in silent mouths. They stared at her with hollow eyes. Ava realized these were readers who had entered before and never written an ending. Ava's throat tightened, but she steadied herself. She lifted the journal. Speak their stories, she read. For each tale you complete, another passage opens toward home. She knelt before the boy, his voice cracked like summer lightning. I never said goodbye to my sister. Ava took out a scrap of paper from her satchel and wrote. The boy knelt by the river's edge and called, Sister, I am safe now. Across the water, a silhouette smiled and waved until sunset reunited their shadows. The journal's page glowed, then snapped closed. The boy's features softened. He gave a nod of thanks and vanished in a swirl of autumn leaves. Ava's journal lay open to the next entry. Tell the soldier's lament. Night fell in Halcyon's edge as Ava worked by the light of the book. Each story she wrote freed a soul, but the next chapter was more harrowing. The soldier's regret at abandoning his post. The mother's guilt for a love she could not protect. The poet's sorrow at unspoken words. Ava felt their anguish as her own. Her pen trembled, her tears blurred ink, but each finished story brought a crack in the mist, revealing a glimmer of dawn. With every soul freed, the world began to pulse with color once more. At the end of the mother's tale, the valley brightened, birdsong whispered through the mist, and the path home lay open. Yet the book's spine trembled, urging her onward. The final chapter awaited. The journal's last entry lay blank. Now write your own ending, reader, or remain where all stories pause. Ava's heart pounded. To finish the book, she had to script her own conclusion, an act as vulnerable as any confession. She sat beneath an ancient oak at dawn's first light and opened to the final page. The blank lines gleamed with promise and dread. What did she want? Home? Her old life? But was that her true story? Or did this world hold a purpose she'd never known? She closed her eyes, letting memories flow. The smell of rain-soaked streets, the warmth of her mother's embrace, the thrill of discovery in dusty archives. Yet between those, a longing for new tales, for the souls she'd met, and for the courage she'd found. Her hand hovered, then wrote, I, Ava Finch, by lantern's glow and pen's grace, choose to carry these stories into the world beyond. My journey does not end here, but begins anew. I walk toward sunrise, bearing the echoes of lives reclaimed. As the final words settled, the oak's branches shivered. The manuscript glowed in a burst of silver light. Ava opened her eyes to find herself back in Marlowe's reading room, morning sun filtering through stained glass windows. The black leather book lay closed before her, its cover now bearing a simple inscription in gold. The Book of Endless Endings. She rose, limbs stiff, but spirit renewed. In her satchel, the leather-bound journal, a record of her adventures and those she'd freed, rested safely. Outside, the city stirred. The clang of blacksmiths, the clip-clop of horses, the murmur of dawn's bustle. But Ava was no longer the same. She clutched the journal to her chest, ready to launch into new stories, both her own and those waiting to be told. Years later, Ava Finch became a celebrated author and archivist. Her debut novel, Echoes of Halcyon's Edge, acclaimed for its haunting truth. She often returned to Marlowe's, where the Book of Endless Endings sat behind glass, open to its final blank page. A silent invitation to any reader brave enough to step inside. And sometimes on moonlit nights, a soft breeze would stir the pages, carrying voices, whispers of gratitude from those she freed, and a gentle reminder. Every reader is the author of their own destiny. Choose your ending wisely. Aaron Marlowe was a cartographer's apprentice, precise of mind and steady of hand. But his compass had long ceased to point true. He had chased his elder sister, Saris, into the shrouded forest 3 years ago, determined to bring her home after she vanished chasing rumors of hidden realms. Each dawn found him one step further from Emberfall, the city he once called home. By the blood-red moon of his 23rd year, Aaron stood on a windswept heath beneath a sky fractured by lightning. Exhausted, he sank to his knees and saw a soft glow dancing across the grass. There, radiating ivory light, lay the lantern of guiding flame. Its gleam was gentle yet insistent, a silent promise of direction. Kneeling, Aaron cradled the lantern in his calloused hands. At the instant his fingers brushed the wick, the wind stilled, the moon paused its dance, and a single trembling voice echoed in his mind. "Follow. I will guide you." Aaron rose, lantern aloft, and stepped toward the black tree line of the shrouded forest. Where his feet faltered, the lantern's light poured forth in a ribbon of gold, illuminating hidden paths between gnarled oaks draped in mist. Each step brought new wonders: glowing mushrooms, dew that sparkled like crushed diamonds, and the distant sound of flowing water that no map had marked. Aaron followed until he emerged at a hidden pool, its surface reflecting the fractured moon. At the pool's edge knelt a young woman, her hair dark as raven's wing, weeping. When Aaron called her name, Anya, her tears stilled. "I've hunted my brother these many moons," she whispered, "only to find this pool that mocks my sorrow." As she touched the water, the lantern's glow shifted to a warmer hue and traced a faint path into the forest's heart. Aaron offered her the lantern, and together they stepped beyond the pool's edge, bound by shared loss. By dawn, the lantern guided them to the village of murmured farewells, an abandoned hamlet where the walls still reverberated with villagers' parting words. As Anya and Aaron passed, the lantern's light awakened echoes: a mother's final lullaby, a baker's last morning greeting, and the smith's echoing hammer's final strike. The two wandered lane after lane, tracing the lantern's glow to a collapsed cellar beneath the old chapel. In the cellar's depths lay a broken cradle, its tiny blanket stained with years of tears. A voice fluttered against the stone, the village blacksmith's son, hidden by walls that had swallowed him whole. With trembling hands, Anya retrieved the child's favorite toy, a carved wooden horse, and placed it in the cradle. The lantern's flame flared once, and the voice rose in joyful relief. Though the child had long since passed from the world of the living, the lantern's light honored his memory, and the echoes subsided to peaceful silence. Aaron and Anya emerged at the crest of the Greenspire Hills, the lantern's flame steady against a rising sun. They paused by a weather-beaten signpost bearing no arrows, its wood warped by wind and time. Aaron unrolled his maps, lines and symbols that meant nothing in these hidden places. Frustrated, he set them aside. "Trust the lantern," Anya said softly. Aaron hesitated, then nodded. Holding the lantern before him, he felt its warmth guide his heart rather than his mind. Each step down the hillside felt certain, and slowly the labyrinth of wooded gullies yielded a narrow trail of moss-covered stones. As they followed, Aaron's compass, long silent, trembled, then pointed true north once again. He realized that the lantern's guidance was not merely about light. It was about rediscovering one's inner compass. Weeks passed as the lantern led them through sunlit meadows and moonlit marshes until they reached the Isle of Forgotten Vows, a small crag of rock in the middle of a vast lake, connected to the shore by a rusted chain bridge. Legends told that lovers made oaths here, and that the lake bore the tears of promises broken. As they crossed, the lantern's glow turned soft and mournful, casting rippling patterns on the water. At the isle's heart stood an altar of white stone, etched with runes of oath-binding. Orion placed the lantern upon the altar and called Ceres's name into the still air. The runes lit with silver fire, and around them arose a host of ghostly figures, lovers, friends, and kin, whose promises had been forgotten. Each spoke a single vow of love, unspoken. "I will return to you. Forgive me, my heart regrets. I keep you always in my dreams." Finally, a single figure stepped forward. Ceres, fragile and pale, her eyes wide with tearful wonder. She reached out, and Irene felt her hand brush his cheek, though she could not cross into the living world. Her voice, carried on the breeze, whispered, "Thank you for remembering." The lantern's light flared, and with a final, silver-bright pulse, the ghostly vows were released. The echo of promises filled the aisle, then faded into dawn's gentle breeze. The bridge imploded into vapor, leaving the aisle safe once more. Aaron and Anya returned to Emberfall under a sky alive with stars. Anya's brother was found at last, lost to the forest's labyrinth, but now remembered and laid to rest in a proper grave. Aaron, too, found closure. Ceres's memory affirmed, he placed the lantern atop her gravestone and watched the flame dance in the breeze. Yet as the sun rose, the lantern's light dimmed, but did not vanish. Aaron realized that the lantern of guiding flame required new keepers to rekindle its promise. He and Anya resolved to protect the lantern, guiding others to lost hopes and buried dreams. In time, Aaron and Anya founded the Order of the Guiding Flame. Within the ancient chapel near Emberfall, they built an oratory where the lantern burned ceaselessly. Wanderers and scholars came, a poet seeking the voice she lost to silence, a soldier haunted by fallen comrades, a child yearning for parents taken by plague. Each seeker brought their sorrow to the lantern's light. Under the keeper's guidance, they found hidden paths, not to another realm, but to the lost corners of their own hearts. The poet's words flowed anew. The soldier's nightmares were soothed by companionship. The child found kinship in an adoptive family. Generations have passed, and the Order of the Guiding Flame endures. The lantern's flame still glows in the oratory's alcove, its silver bronze casing polished by countless hands, its wick replenished by the tears of those it has guided. Emberfall grew into a city of gentle kindness, its nightly bell reminding citizens that each soul's echo deserves to be heard. On moonlit nights, if you stand by the chapel's stained glass windows, you may glimpse the lantern's light dancing among the shadows, calling softly to the lost, guiding them home. And those who follow its glow discover that every lost way can be found, every forgotten dream rekindled, and every hidden heart restored by the steady, unyielding flame of a single guiding lantern. Aurelia Darrow, a scholar of forgotten customs, undertook a journey to Celestine Vale at the height of summer solstice. She traversed winding passes and meadows dotted with wild irises, before at last glimpsing the town's lanterns flickering like distant satellites. As she descended the final cobblestone lane, she felt the air grow cooler, scented with night-blooming jasmine and dewy moss. At the inn, she discovered a single rule posted in polished silver script. Beware the star fall. Remain within your lodgings once the first star is seen. In the common room, villagers, pale-skinned and wide-eyed, drank spiced tea and spoke softly of the night's ritual. Aurelia took a room overlooking the central square, and with mounting excitement, awaited the first star's emergence. That evening, as the sun bled its last upon the horizon, the town's church bell tolled once. Churchgoers, priests, teachers, and fishermen alike returned home in measured steps. Curtains were drawn, shutters latched, and lamplight died to embers. In Aurelia's room, the single window framed the violet sky. Her heartbeat quickened when the first star, a silver mote, blinked into existence. An otherworldly hush swept the town. Even the breeze stilled. Below, through the fog glass, she glimpsed her innkeeper, Mrs. Wren, laying a pale shawl across her shoulders, whispering a prayer of starlit repose. Curtains stirred as lights extinguished room by room. Then darkness reigned. Only the sky remained lit by the Milky Way's ghostly river. Aurelia felt a lull wash over her and succumbed to slumber, her last waking thought the hush of millions of silent watchers above. Aurelia awoke at the church bell's peal, marking dawn's approach. The world felt different. She smelled roasted coffee and fresh bread, heard the clink of plates and cheerful chatter. At the inn's hearth, villagers exchanged quiet smiles. "Did you dream?" asked Mrs. Wren. Aurelia, head still heavy with sleep's residue, hesitated. Over breakfast, a tapestry of shared vision unfurled. Old Bram, the miller, recounted drifting among fluorescent nebulae. Young Isla, the baker's daughter, spoke of flying on comet tails, and Marin, the blacksmith, saw himself forging stars in a cosmic forge. Aurelia, heart racing, described soaring above the veil on a pillar of starlight. The townsfolk nodded in reverent understanding. Each dream wove into a grand, collective story, one they shared every dawn. In Celestine's heart stood the Dreamweaver's Hall, a circular building ringed with stained glass depicting star constellations. Inside, an elder known as the Dreamweaver sat before an immense loom, threads shimmering like liquid starlight. Each morning, she wove the previous night's dreams into tapestries, one panel for every household. Those tapestries were hung in the square, reflecting each dream in vivid color. Aurelia visited the hall, marveling at the loom's strands, silver for wonder, violet for sorrow, gold for joy. The Dreamweaver, an ageless woman named Serene, explained, "Our dreams strengthen the weave of reality. We honor the stars by listening, for they speak to us in visions." Aurelia marveled at the harmony, a town united by nightly slumber, weaving their dreams into a living record of their shared soul. At dusk, Aurelia joined the nightly procession of children, known as the Children of Stardust, who followed firefly-lit lanterns to the meadows beyond town. There, beneath the open sky, they lay upon blankets of woven moon silk, pointing to shapes in the constellations. Parents watched, knowing that the dreams kindled here would feed the Dreamweaver's loom. Aurelia sat among them, tightrope of consciousness straining between wonder and fatigue. As the first star appeared, she closed her eyes and felt the veil's magic seep into her bones. She dreamed of planets orbiting silent suns, of ancient libraries adrift in cosmic seas, and of a figure beckoning from a celestial shore. When the bell tolled at midnight, she awoke to the meadows empty, the lanterns extinguished, and the veil's hush returning. Aurelia's reputation as a dream scholar spread. She attracted the attention of Alaric Tane, an itinerant astronomer seeking answers in Celestine skies. He set up his brass telescope in the square each day, mapping star maps that aligned with the Dreamweaver's tapestries. "The veil's magic peaks only when the galactic core of our Milky Way rises," he explained. "Should that alignment shift, should the sky itself change, your dreams may turn into nightmares." The villagers listened in silent dread. Such an event occurred once every 7 centuries and had preceded a sudden collapse in the veil's magic. Years of dark dreams and sleepless nights. Aurelia, troubled by Alaric's warning, realized that their delicate harmony between slumber and starlight was fragile. The veil's very soul lay in sky's constancy. One moonless night, the sky's pattern faltered. Alaric at his telescope cried out, "The core drifts. The constellations have slipped." Across the veil, villagers hesitated in their nightly rituals. In the meadows, children awakened, screaming at nightmares of starless voids. Tapestries unraveled in the hall as the Dreamweaver wept silver tears. Fear swelled in hearts long lulled by cosmic lullabies. Aurelia stood in the square, the Dreamweaver's loom in ruins. She placed a hand upon the loom's fractured strands and whispered, "We cannot let our stars fall." Alaric joined her, raising his telescope to the heavens. "We must restore the sky's pattern," he declared. "We must dream with purpose, not sleep in surrender." That night, for the first time, the veil held a vigil of purposeful dreaming. Instead of drifting unconsciously, each person prepared a dream, an intention woven from hope against the void. The miller dreamed of rebuilding broken mills by starlight. the baker of hearts that never cooled, the children of laughter that banished silence. Aurelia, with trembling heart, chose a dream of cosmic harmony, to weave sky and soul back into sync. Beneath a shifting tapestry of stray stars, the townsfolk lay in the meadows, voices raised in a haunting chant of longing and resolve. The air thickened with magic as their shared intention echoed across the vale. Alaric's telescope caught the first shimmer of the galactic core realigning, its glow rekindling the constellations. Tapestries in the hall glowed and wove themselves anew. The Dreamweaver's loom sprang to life, threads of moonlight and shadow dancing in harmony. At dawn's first light, Celestine Vale found itself at peace. The night road of dreams remained as wondrous as ever, but now tempered by conscious intent. The villagers awakened to a new sense of purpose, faces aglow with starlit memory and unwavering hope. The Dreamweaver, her loom restored, unveiled a new tapestry, a celestial map woven from the Vale's purposeful dreams, a guide for generations to come. Aurelia and Alaric presented their findings to the keepers of the Vale, a council formed to safeguard the harmony between slumber and stars. They founded the Observatory of Intentional Dreaming, where scholars, astronomers, and dreamweavers studied the sky's dance and guided each night's vigil. Centuries have passed since that night of cosmic realignment. Celestine Vale endures, its cottages nestled beneath ancient pines whose silhouettes trace the moon's path. Each dusk, the church bell rings thrice, lanterns dim, and the night road emerges in mist. Villagers gather in fields and halls to weave dreams of purpose, healing old wounds, nurturing new hopes, and listening to the stars' silent counsel. Aurelia Morgan's name lives on in song and story, alongside Alaric Taines as the astronomer who read the heavens and guided the Vale back from the brink. The Dreamweaver's loom spins on, tapestries growing ever grander. On clear nights when the Milky Way spills its silver fire across the sky, you may still hear the Vale's gentle chant floating on the breeze. By starlit promise, dreams we bind, to guide our sleeping hearts and minds. Though midnight's veil may slip and wane, beneath the stars we dwell again. And in the hush that follows, the night road's pale ribbon unfurls once more. An invitation to walk between the worlds of dream and night, where every heart, beneath the stars, finds its rest and its purpose anew. Ilara Byrne was the archivist of Grafin Library, a repository of local lore and half-heard legends. When a courier delivered an anonymous letter, bearing only these words, "Come to the river, listen," her scholarly curiosity ignited. She had spent her career chasing myths, the haunted chapel, the dancing lights of the marsh, the ghostly nights on Blackridge Road. But nothing intrigued her so deeply as the notion that a river might carry voices from the past. That evening, under a pale harvest moon, Ilara packed her satchel, notebooks, ink, a flask of black tea, and her mother's old fountain pen. She locked the library's oak doors and set off toward the marshland where the river of forgotten echoes wound its way through bracken and reeds. The riverbank was silent as Ilara approached. Willow branches trailed like spectral fingers over the water's surface. She knelt by the edge, cupped her hands, and drank. The cold rush of water slid down her throat, and she heard it, a voice as soft as silk, but edged with sorrow. "Madeline, Madeline." Ilara stood, heart pounding. She scanned the banks for any sign of another human, but only the moonlit reeds swayed. She scribbled in her notebook. First whisper, "Madeline." No context. She pressed her palm to the earth. The ground thrummed with memory. The night deepened, and more names rose. Roland, Aelith. Each name carried a breath of regret, a sigh of longing. Ilara shivered, realizing the river did not merely echo names, it mourned them. The next morning, Ilara visited the nearby village of Hollowbridge. Its residents were wary of the river. Many had heard its whispers but would not speak its name. At the Rusty Lantern Tavern, she bought a mug of bitter ale and questioned the barkeep, old Tom. "Why does the river call out those names?" she asked. Tom's rheumy eyes darted to the window. "Names slip from the tongue, Miss Byrne. Folks forget mothers and fathers, old friends and lovers. The river gathers what we lose and whispers it back." Elara leaned forward. "Can it restore memory? If I hear a name, can I remember the life it belonged to?" Tom shrugged. "Some have tried to track the names, digging graves or old archives. They say the river speaks of those whose stories went untold. But memory, once lost, is a fragile thing. Best not to chase shadows." Elara left unsettled but determined. She would chase those names no matter where they led. That night, under a slivered moon, Elara returned to the river. She seated herself on a moss-covered stone and closed her eyes, letting the murmurs wash over her. She heard Aelith again and followed it upstream, stepping from stone to stone. Where the water deepened into a crystalline pool, she paused. By the pool's edge lay two weather-worn stones, carved in the shape of entwined hearts. As she approached, the wind carried a soft melody, a woman's lullaby in a tongue Elara did not know. She opened her notebook. "Song of Aelith, lullaby for a child? No, a lover's farewell." A rustle behind her made her whirl around. There stood a man, tall, dark-haired, with eyes like moonlight on steel. He held a lute at his side. Elara gasped. The man seemed rooted in shadow. "I am Rowan," he said, voice echoing like a distant chord. "I come each night to sing for Aelith, my lost love. I built these stones in the centuries since her passing, yet each dawn I awake alone, and the river renews its lullaby." Elara felt a kinship with Rowan's sorrow. "I'm Elara. I study the river's whispers, seek the stories behind forgotten names." She offered her notebook. "May I record your song?" Rowan nodded, his face etched with joy and pain. As he strummed, the lullaby wove through the night, and Elara's pen flew across the page. For weeks, Elara and Rowan met beneath the willow's branches. She recorded each song, poems of farmhands' first loves, mothers' cradle songs, vows broken on moonlit bridges. Her notebook swelled, a tapestry of forgotten lives. Yet as she wrote, Elara felt a heaviness settle in her heart. Each story was a wound, joy cut short, devotion unrequited, dreams dissolved. The river had not only preserved names, it had preserved heartbreak. One dusk, she confided in Rowan, "I fear I carry too many sorrows within me now." He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You give these souls a voice. In remembering them, you honor their lives. The river's sorrow is ours to share, so that it may lighten in sharing." Elara nodded, tears glinting in moonlight. She resolved to complete her task, to gather every whisper into a chronicle, so that no one in Dravenmore would ever forget. Elara returned to Grayfen Library, but the veil's magic followed her. In the silent stacks, she shaped her notes into a grand volume, the Chronicle of Forgotten Echoes. Each chapter bore a river-whispered name, followed by story and song. Madeline, the seamstress who crafted sails for ships she never saw set out to sea. Roland, the blacksmith's son whose laughter echoed in every ringing hammer. Aelith, the minstrel who sang lullabies of home and hope. As Elara wrote, the chronicles seemed to hum with life. She bound its pages with ribbons of silver thread and wove a binding of starlit vellum. Yet she hesitated to present it, fearing the burden of sorrow might overwhelm the townsfolk. In midwinter, when the nights were longest, Elara proposed a festival of remembering. At the river's edge, lanterns were hung from willow branches. Villagers lit candles on their windowsills. In the square, the chronicle lay open on a lectern. Elara stood before the crowd and read the first story. Madeline's seamstress song. Then Rowan stepped forward, lute in hand, and played the metal soft melody again. As the music mingled with the river's whispers, the villagers closed their eyes, tears falling like silent blessings. One by one, names were read, songs were sung, and memories shared. Grief softened into tender remembrance. Sorrow found strength in community. The river's voice joined their chorus, no longer a lone chant, but a hymn woven from countless hearts. That night, under the full winter moon, the festival reached its zenith. Ilara, Rowan, and the villagers invoked an ancient blessing. River of echoes, keeper of names, we bind our stories, our loss, our gains. No more shall sorrow flow unshared. In song and memory, we are repaired. As the final chord faded, the river's murmur shifted. The once haunting whispers harmonized into a gentle lullaby, an oral ribbon of remembrance. A gentle glow rose from the waters, and the names no longer vanished but settled into the riverbed, shining like polished stones. In the weeks that followed, the river of forgotten echoes became the river of remembered names. Travelers came to place candles on its banks and to retrieve polished stones bearing ancestral names. The chronicle found its home in Grafin Library, open for all to read and remember. Ilara, her heart lightened by shared sorrow, resumed her scholarly work, collecting not only tales of sadness, but of joy, resilience, and love. Rowan's lullaby became the Vale's anthem, sung at weddings and farewells alike. Under the watchful gaze of the moon, Celestine Vale had learned that no name, no life, need ever truly be lost. Generations passed. The river still murmured beneath the willows at twilight, but its voice was now a song of unity. Ancestors and descendants joined in an unbroken chain of memory. On winter nights, villagers gather at the river's edge, place stones in their pockets, and listen, no longer seeking lost names, but celebrating the echo of every life that shaped their own. And sometimes among the gentle chorus, a single voice whispers, "Thank you, remember me." For in the vale of Dravenmore, memory flows eternal, carried on the river's gentle current, whispered beneath the stars, and enshrined in hearts that dare to remember. Evelyn Hargrave, a quiet archivist from the city of Charfield, had never heard of the everlasting echoes until the day an aged solicitor arrived at her office with a letter bound in burgundy wax. Evelyn's great-aunt Celeste, estranged for decades, had bequeathed her the cottage, along with all its secrets. At 33, Evelyn found herself heir to a house she had never known, her curiosity piqued by rumors of its magical nature. She traveled to Evermore beneath a cloudy sky, the wheels of her carriage crunching over frost-rimmed fields. Villagers offered condolences and warnings. "Mind what you uncover, miss," the blacksmith said. "Once you cross that threshold, you carry every memory it holds." Evelyn's resolve only strengthened. As an archivist, she lived for lost histories. She would preserve the house's legacy. The moment Evelyn crossed the threshold, she sensed something uncanny. The hall smelled of old parchment and rosewater. Her footsteps awoke soft whispers, snatches of conversation in her great-aunt's voice, though Celeste had died years before. In the parlor, a portrait of Celeste by candlelight shifted. Once a stern matron, her lips curved into a gentle smile as though greeting a beloved niece. Evelyn's heart fluttered. The house was alive with memory. That night, she lay in the chamber with embroidered drapes and drifted in an uneasy sleep. In her dreams, she wandered the hallways as a child, hearing her own voice giggle in a game of hide-and-seek. She woke at dawn, tears in her eyes, unsure if the echoes were real or born of exhaustion. Over the following days, Evelyn cataloged every room. Portraits changed by the hour. The Hargrave ancestors, once austere, now blinked in the morning light, leaning toward one another in conversation. Eve's own reflection appeared in a gilded mirror, eyes widened in surprise, as the image behind her morphed into Celeste's encouraging gaze. She noted each change in a leather-bound journal, determined to create a guide to the house's phenomena. In the library, bookshelf spines echoed the titles of books long removed. A gentle tug on her memory made Evelyn recall her grandmother reading fairy tales by firelit hearth. That day, she recovered a volume of Celeste's poetry inscribed with elegant script. Memories are seeds sown in silent hearts. This house is the soil that holds them fast. Evelyn realized the house did not merely replay memories, it nurtured them, keeping them vivid. One evening, Evelyn found the old caretaker, Ms. Blythe, in the kitchen, stirring a pot of spiced tea. Blythe's face was lined with years of watching echoes awaken. "I've tended this place since your aunt left," Blythe confessed. "It carries our joys and our griefs. Don't let it trap you in the past, dear. Memories give life meaning, but they must not be your cage." Evelyn, torn between fascination and fear, asked, "Can the house forget or release memories?" Blythe shook her head. "Only the living can choose to move on. This house remembers all." That night, Evelyn dreamt of her mother's final goodbye, an event she had repressed. The house forced it upon her, unflinchingly. While cataloging Celeste's belongings, Evelyn discovered an ornate music box in a hidden cupboard. Winding it produced a haunting lullaby she had never heard, yet knew in her blood. The melody summoned a memory of Celeste teaching Evelyn to dance as a child, twirling in a spring garden. Evelyn laughed softly through tears as the memory filled her mind. Determined to harness the house's power for healing, she invited her friend Marcus, a psychologist investigating collective memory. He observed, "The house externalizes suppressed memories, enabling you to process them. It's as if your subconscious is woven into the walls." Encouraged, Evelyn began exploring the house's hidden crannies, uncovering tokens, lockets, letters, a cracked teacup that unlocked new recollections. Her father's lullaby, a childhood promise, her first heartbreak. On a chilly autumn night, Evelyn hosted a gathering. Old friends and curious neighbors invited to share memories in the house. In the dining room, beneath a chandelier of amber prisms, each guest spoke of a cherished moment, weddings, births, farewells. As they spoke, the walls shimmered. Scenes flickered in the paint, as if the very fabric absorbed and replayed their stories. A hush fell when an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Fletcher, recounted running through rain-slicked streets to deliver medicine in wartime. The portrait of Celeste at the end of the table wept silver tears, her painted hand extended in solidarity. The guests wept too, embracing the healing power of shared memory. Yet not all memories were gentle. In the attic, Evelyn found an old trunk containing letters from a suitor Celeste had spurned. When she read them aloud, the house groaned. The letters unraveled the memory of a wedding Celeste never attended, her regret filling the air like a chill wind. Portraits of Celeste's friends shifted into mourning dresses, their eyes haunted. The attic grew cold, the shadows pressing in. Terrified, Evelyn fled downstairs, only to find the front hall locked, doors sealed by unseen force. The voices of regret echoed. What if? Fear surged. She realized memory could wound as deeply as time. Determined not to be imprisoned by regret, Evelyn returned to the attic. She placed Celeste's letters before the trap door and recited vows to forgive herself and her aunt for decisions made in pain. She spoke of kindness, acceptance, and the right to move forward. The letters glowed briefly, then dissolved into dust. The shutters in the front hall clattered open. In that moment, Evelyn understood Blythe's warning. The house could reveal every memory, but only she could choose which to carry forward. She descended to the parlor, where dim portraits brightened. Joy restored the painted smiles. In spring, Evelyn opened the house as the Everlasting Echoes Archive, inviting visitors to explore memory's depths. Students of history, families seeking closure, artists finding inspiration. She installed listening stations in each room, headphones playing curated memories, Celeste's music box, the lullabies, the wartime stories, allowing guests to experience the house's magic safely. She taught guided rituals, honoring joy by wind chimes in the garden, releasing sorrow by writing letters burned in the hearth. The house blossomed into a sanctuary for remembrance and renewal. Years passed. Evelyn's hair silvered atop her head, but her eyes shone with purpose. Blythe retired at last, handing Evelyn the caretaker's keys. Evelyn placed them on a velvet pillow and said, "The house remembers, and so shall I, but not forever." She kissed Blythe's cheek as dawn's first light filtered through stained glass, painting memories in rainbow hues. Evelyn's children, learning the rituals, danced in the gardens beneath morning glories. To them, the house of everlasting echoes was not a prison of the past, but a wellspring of stories, a testament that memory, though eternal, must be lived beyond the walls that record it. Long after Evelyn's time, the cottage at the edge of Evermore remained a beacon of memory's power. Scholars studied its magic. Seekers found solace in its halls. Visitors wrote their names on silver slips and released them into the hearth. The house stood, its beams humming with laughter and tears, its walls alive with every soul who passed through. And on nights when the wind swept through the willows and the moon traced broad arcs across the sky, the house of everlasting echoes whispered anew, "Remember well, live fully, yet let the present shine brighter than any echo of the past."